everybody! So today is the next entry in our Disney Canon series, and we are taking a look at the 20th film from Walt Disney Animated Pictures. It is the Aristocats, and it's the first major film after Walt Disney's passing. He died just before the Jungle Book was released, but he was very, very involved in that. It was only a couple months before the release of Jungle Book. This came out in 1970. He died in 1966. So you had a pretty significant time period that went by. This is also done solely with the Xerox method. I have to be honest, I'm not really a big fan of this movie. I don't think it's very good. And, you know, a lot of people will get mad at me when I am unkind to certain Disney films, but I'm not really doing my job. Like, if I give everybody just a rubber stamp just because it's Disney, then what does it mean when I say something is good if I say everything is good? And so, no, this is a weak entry in the Disney canon, and the biggest problem with this film is that it is a mediocre version of two other better films. It has tons of elements from Lady and the Tramp and tons of elements from 101 Dalmatians. So the basic setup of the film is that you have, instead of dogs, you have cats. You have Duchess, who is the cat of a wealthy woman in Paris, and she has 3 kittens, and the kittens are named Marie, Toulouse, and Burlos. Anyway, they're very cute. They're very, very charmingly animated, and they're very attached to their owner, Madame Adelaide, and she has a butler named Edward, and Madame Adelaide decides to bring her lawyer over. Her lawyer is very funny, portrayed, and she makes a will out that her entire estate will go to her cats. And then after that will go to Edgar. So Edgar decides that he's going to get rid of the cats so then it all goes to him, which is really ridiculous when you think about it, because he just has to live with some cats. I guess he's kind of allergic, but he's living there anyway. So I don't really understand, you know, like why this is a problem, and just wait until she dies and then get rid of the cats. Like, who's going to care? So it's stupid. It's a really stupid plot, and Edgar is a very lame villain. This is no Cruella de Vil, let's put it that way. And so Edgar decides to kidnap, he drugs the cats, and then he takes them out to a bridge in the country, drops them off, and they wake up and find out they're in the middle of nowhere. And honestly, I feel like the Duchess's response is very muted for what I would feel if I was drugged with my children and left in some abandoned place, who knows where. And part of the problem with this film is that they aren't presented with enough like real challenges, so you don't get like real tension. And because in 101 Dalmatians, when a similar thing happens, there are so many tense moments where they are almost caught, where they almost don't make it. And in this case, the Duchess gets found early on by Thomas O'Malley, who's voiced by Phil Harris, and he basically like rescues them time and time again. And it, like, for instance, as an example, there's a scene where they have to get onto a moving truck or whatever, and if you compare that scene with the scene in 100 Dalmatians where they have the sit on and they're trying to get into the moving truck, there's no comparison. The 101 Dalmatians scene is so much more tense. It's so much more engrossing, to me at least. And so this just feels sort of this mediocre version of what we've already seen. You have the similarities to Lady and the Tramp. Let's talk about them. You've got Lady, obviously, with the comparison to Duchess. You have the comparison you have Thomas O'Malley and the Tramp are basically the same, and yet the two don't have, if you can say that animals have chemistry, they don't have nearly the chemistry that Lady and the Tramp had. There's no great sort of spaghetti scene that you might have in Lady and the Tramp. Another great similarity between Lady and the Tramp is Jock and Trusty, and here you have Napoleon and Lafayette. Very, very similar characters. There is a pretty nice sequence in here with Edgar that he's being sort of chased by Lafayette and Napoleon. There's some good action there. It's interesting because Lady and the Tramp doesn't really even need a villain per se. There's the Siamese cats, but then they're gone. It's really just sort of the story of Lady and the Tramp, and it feels so much more like real and so much more earthy to sort of the era that it's set in and the kind of story that it's trying to be. Well, then the similarities to 101 Dalmatians. Let's talk about that. Well, there's lots of little things, like the fact that you have these cute little kittens versus cute little puppies, and you have a whole scene with a character driving crazily, like you have with Cruella driving crazily. You have an urban environment like you have in 100 Dalmatians. Obviously, have the similarity of characters getting kidnapped, abducted, taken, having to find their way back to their owners. And so that's very similar. And then it also has similarities to Jungle Book, obviously with Phil Harris. It's a very Baloo-esque character with Thomas O'Malley. And so, yeah, it just doesn't work very well. It's fine if you want to put on a babysitter for your kids. I don't think it looks particularly nice. One of the things I like to compare it to is if you look at the visuals of Paris, it looks dirty, it looks blah, it's all very blue, it's kind of like Sword in the Stone in that way. If you compare it to Ratatouille, for instance, obviously that's a different technology, but it doesn't really matter as far as technology how much light you have in a shot and how bright things are. You can do that with the Xerox copy, and we've seen it before. You certainly saw it even in Jungle Book. And in Aristocats, there's this rooftop sequence, and it just looks polluted and gross, and it doesn't look good. And in Ratatouille, it's light, it's bright, it's beautiful, and so the whole movie I don't think looks that good. And then you've got the songs, which is the other similarity to the Jungle Book, is you've got the Sherman Brothers songs. And I think there's one good song, Everybody Wants to Be a Cat. I think Thomas O'Malley, the Alley Cat, is fine. It's fine. I think Scales and Arpeggios is fine. It's not a terrible song. The other thing I kind of like about it is some of the side characters are sort of fun. Roquefort is cute. And then I like the geese. I think they're really funny and kind of catty. And they're sort of weird where they meet their uncle, and his only role in the character is his only role in this movie is for him to be drunk in one scene, and then you hardly see him again. It's like, that was weird. Why did we have an introduction, a character in a Disney film just to be the drunk person? Like, that's very strange. And nothing ever happens really with that character. And the geese, there's nothing really happens with the geese. But I don't know, they're kind of funny. So there's some charming elements. It's not, if you have to have a babysitter for your kids, it's not horrible. They'll be fine. It's just not very good, I don't think. And I think you'd be better off showing them Lady and the Tramp. I think you'd be better off showing them 101 Dalmatians, because I just think those movies have much tighter stories, and they have much better elements to them. Like whether it's the romance in Lady and the Tramp or it's the villain in 101 Dalmatians is so much stronger. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on Aristocats. I give it a C-. Yeah, sorry. If you love it, put down in the comment section why you love it. And thanks so much. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll talk to you later. Bye!